In 1911, a lone surveyor uncovered forgotten brick foundations buried underneath endless red dirt. Official records claimed the silent settlement was abandoned due to sudden economic collapse. Yet, modern ground radar reveals deep iron doors locked firmly from inside. Why would an entire population seal themselves underground during a routine summer afternoon? Someone systematically erased every census document tied to this location, leaving behind a blank space on historical maps. Before we examine the remaining clues, where on earth are you watching from today? Leave a comment, hit like, subscribe, and let us investigate what really happened. Here is part 2 of your documentary script. Written with the calm, intelligent authority of a BBC Netflix narrator, it progresses the narrative seamlessly from the initial hook into the historical background and first physical excavation, using evidence-focused curiosity gaps, varied sentence structures, and an active voice. Part 2. Historical background and the first excavation length. Exactly 500 words. Script. To understand how a community vanishes without a trace, we must turn back the clock to 1884. Archived documents indicate this settlement once thrived as a busy frontier mining outpost. Over 800 residents lived here, supporting a regional timber trade that supplied growing coastal cities. On paper, it was an ordinary town. Yet, regional land titles from that era reveal something unusual. In October of that year, the local post office abruptly ceased all outwards mail distribution. Tax collection ledgers simply stopped receiving entries. No military conflict took place in the county, nor did any recorded outbreak of infectious disease strike the valley. For over a decade, surrounding communities assumed the inhabitants had relocated following a drop in timber prices. Nature slowly reclaimed the timber cabins and cobblestone paths. Dust settled over unpaved streets, obscuring human activity beneath layers of topsoil. That silence was finally broken in 1932. Independent geological survey team arrived in the valley to map mineral deposits. While collecting stone core samples along a limestone ridge, worker shovels struck solid iron plate beneath 4 feet of compact clay. Further clearing revealed a heavy reinforced cellar hatch, fitted with an industrial brass deadbolt. The lock mechanism was not designed to keep trespassers out. It was constructed to keep something sealed within. When historians forced open the hatch, they expected to find a routine storage cellar or an underground storm shelter. Instead, a narrow stone staircase descended nearly 40 feet into complete darkness. Hand-carved steps cut straight through solid granite bedrock, leading far below the surface foundations of the visible town. The air inside was remarkably preserved, carrying a faint metallic scent that puzzled early investigators. Stringing temporary electric wire down the shaft, the crew stepped into a sprawling subterranean network. What they found left the team entirely silent. Constructed along a main corridor were dozens of windowless quarters, each containing basic furniture, intact oil lamps, and unconsumed, non-perishable rations. Personal belongings remained placed neatly on bedside tables. Pocket watches, leather boots, and reading spectacles sat undisturbed, exactly as their owners had placed them decades prior. There were no signs of structural damage, fire, or struggle. Tools were laid across workbenches as if workers had merely stepped away for a brief break. However, as the excavation team advanced deeper into the main central chamber, they noticed a striking anomaly. Every clock discovered inside the underground complex had stopped at precisely 4:15. Initial newspaper reports from 1933 speculated that the population had fled a sudden natural hazard, but that explanation quickly collapsed under closer examination. If the residents were escaping danger, why leave behind valuable tools, currency, and family heirlooms? More importantly, if everyone fled the valley, who closed the iron entry doors from inside? The answer lay buried further down the central shaft, where researchers made a second, far more unsettling discovery. Here is part 3 of your script. Written in a measured, cinematic tone, it transitions into modern scientific analysis, ground-penetrating radar data, and competing historical hypotheses, maintaining a steady drip of curiosity every 30 to 60 seconds. Part 3. Scientific investigation, radar data and competing theories, length. Exactly 500 words. Script decades passed before technology allowed modern researchers to analyze the site with precision. In 2018, a team of geophysicists returned to the valley armed with high-frequency ground-penetrating radar. They aimed to map the full subterranean blueprint without disturbing the remaining ground structures. What the scans revealed stunned the research team. The underground complex was far larger than the 1932 expedition had estimated. Radar pulses mapped over 2 miles of interconnected corridors extending beneath the surrounding mountainside. Even more surprising was the symmetry of the construction. This was not a hastily dug shelter, but a highly planned engineering project built using heavy industrial machinery that should not have existed in an 1880s frontier settlement. Thermal imaging added another layer of mystery. Deep within the lower tunnels, sensors registered a consistent, subtle temperature variance compared to the surrounding rock, suggesting an active air circulation design built straight into the mountain itself. Scientists immediately began analyzing physical artifacts recovered from the main corridors. Soil samples taken from the central shaft revealed trace amounts of unusual chemical compounds, including refined sulfur and oxidized copper residue. This evidence gave birth to several competing theories. The first hypothesis, proposed by industrial historians, suggests the town was an undisclosed government research facility. During the late 19th century, early subterranean mining technology was advancing rapidly. Proponents of this theory argue the residents were specialized workers hired to test early underground ventilation and isolation systems, leaving abruptly when funding was terminated. However, historical archivists point out a critical flaw in this idea. No state or private mining corporation ever logged expenditures for a project of this magnitude in regional financial records. A second theory, favored by local researchers, posits an environmental hazard. Proponents suggest toxic natural gas began seeping through the granite bedrock, forcing the community into an immediate evacuation down the central shafts where ventilation was controlled. Yet, this explanation raises an obvious contradiction. If toxic gas forced the population into the lower chambers, researchers would expect to find biological remains or evidence of medical emergency. Instead, air quality tests conducted in the sealed chambers revealed clean, breathable air that had remained trapped for over a century. That leaves a third, far more intriguing possibility. According to a newly uncovered diary belonging to a local railway surveyor, the settlement was not built to mine ore or timber at all. The diary, dated 3 months before the town went silent, mentions workers striking a massive, solid metallic obstruction buried deep within the granite ridge, an anomaly that shattered steel drill bits instantly. Shortly after that entry was written, all public correspondence from the valley ceased completely. Could the townspeople have discovered something buried long before their arrival? Something so perplexing that the entire site was deliberately sealed off from the outside world. Perhaps the greatest mystery of this forgotten settlement is not why it was buried, but what still rests untouched in the darkness below. As technology advances, new answers will certainly emerge. Subscribe to join us on our next deep dive into history's hidden evidence and help us uncover the truth.